This is already the second episode on the Miata turbo build. I'm trying to get 250 wheel horsepower out of her. And last time we installed the air inlet temperature sensor, the RX-8 injectors, the intercooler piping and some other small bits and pieces. If you haven't seen the video, click here to find out. And today I'm going to install the turbo, downpipe, manifold, and I'm going to tap into the oil pan for the oil return line and install all the other piping and hopefully have it finished by the end of this day. Enough of me talking, let's dive right into it. The first thing that I'm going to do is remove the old headers, then we have a lot more access to install the manifold, downpipe and of course drill a hole in the oil sump.
Before we start drilling, you want to make sure that you tape around the drill bit, that way it won't jam into your oil pickup line and you will lose oil pressure, and that's something you don't want. So tape it up, and to make sure that there aren't any metal shavings in there, grease this up. As you can see, the grease on the drill bit really does its work. It collects all the metal shavings, so I'm not going to use the head dry technique. And now we can see here on the bottom that the return line fitting is fitted to the oil sump, but now we can hook up the return line.
Now that the oil return line is installed, we can move on to the oil feed line for the turbo. On the older generation engines, which I have, it's really practical. There's one bolt which blocks an oil channel, and when you remove the bolt, there comes oil out. So that's the bolt we are going to remove and use for the oil feed.
The bolt I'm talking about is this one here on the bottom. Oil starts dripping out, which means we got the right oil channel. Since the Garrett GT2560R is oil cooled and water cooled, we're going to install some oil lines. This is the water line where the turbo picks up its water, and here on the bottom is the return. So just loosen these two, install the delivered lines from the kit and feed them to the turbo.
Now that the oil lines are installed, the water lines are installed, it's time to block off the EGR. The EGR is exhaust gas return, which means better emissions or something like that. You don't need it anymore. That's why we're going to block it off on the inlet manifold and remove the entire pipe. Just get yourself some plate steel, drill 2 holes in there, grind it to the right shape, and you have yourself an EGR block off plate. For the EGR block off plate, I made this here and of course the block off plate itself, but I want to make sure that it's 100% sealed, and this is going on top of the block off plate. The block off plate is just some plate steel with 2 holes in there, and that's it. So now you're probably wondering, hey Luca, you just drilled in your oil sump. There could be some oil shavings. And you're right, we are going to change the oil. So a quick oil and oil filter swap. It's even better for the new turbo and of course for the old oil shavings.
Yeah, just relaxing on my Miata. Thankfully I have these jack stands who go up pretty high, that way there is more than enough room to work. So the oil is almost drained. Now let's take off the oil filter, probably really stuck. You only need to do them hand tight, but a lot of people use force and some tools for it, which is absolutely unnecessary.
And when you have that problem, just like I did, what you need to do,
get yourself a hammer and a screwdriver, jam the hammer through the oil filter, and then you have a lot of leverage to get loose. Clocking the turbo is an important process in the turbo build when you're installing a GT2560R or I believe a lot of other turbos. What clocking means, this is the oil inlet, which needs to be on top. When I install it on the Miata with this log manifold, it will be installed like this. Which means that the CHRA, which is this thing in the middle, needs to be clocked 90 degrees. That way the oil, which goes in the turbo, is on top, and the oil drain, which is this thing here, is on the bottom. And make sure it doesn't fly all the way through the workshop. The flange will be here, which means the oil inlet needs to be here, oil outlet needs to be on the other side. And for the inlet, we said this thing needs to be on top. So first let's rotate this inner section, and then we are going to rotate the intake, and then we are going to tighten everything. Alright. This is exactly how we want the oil to be. Now the inlet is facing downwards, the oil is facing upwards, and I think it's time to tighten everything. The wastegate actuator needed a little bit of welding, but now it's fine, and yeah, the turbo's done. Only need to properly tighten the inlet turbine housing. So now it's time for the moment I've been waiting for the entire time, installing the turbo assembly. You should always assemble it in front, especially when you have the 3-inch exhaust. That's what the seller said, at least, so it should be a bit easier. Everything is fitted now, so I'm going to get the white band in the exhaust and already hooked up the intercooler piping. I probably won't get the car done today because there's still a lot of work to do, but we're almost there. Fits like a glove. I took off the exhaust and now I only have the downpipe installed. Because yeah, this is quite restrictive, but everything is installed. I do need to grind a little bit of metal here and here to make it fit. And in around half an hour, Dave from Valleys 5 will call me, and then we are going to set up the base map and hopefully do the first run, which will be epic and I can't wait. Hopefully turbo is good because I bought it like a year ago and I don't know if it's actually good or if there is a reason why he sold it so cheap. I removed the relay for the fuel injection. Now I'm going to power up the car and then hopefully everything goes fine. So let's do this around 15 seconds, 10 to 15 seconds, then there should be enough oil pressure. Yep, this should be plenty. No oil squirting out of anything here, so that's great.
Target AFR table. If it will allow me to start things too. Crank and fuel trim after start. Sure. Crank.
Yesterday, Dave from Valleys 5 helped me to start the car, load the base map and all those things. But it would start, but it wouldn't idle. So what could be the case is that due to the inlet air temperature sensor, that the fuel pump needs to be hardwired, that it's always running. And he also told me get some colder spark plugs, so that's exactly what I did. And now I'm going to install them, then check if the fuel pump can be hardwired and then give it a go. Fuck yeah, I finally got it. I'm so happy. It was so I can't come out of my words, but the thing I need to do is wire the fuel pump, like I said, on the diagnostic board, and now it works. So I'm going to immediately call Dave from Valleys 5, and he is an awesome guy because on his free day, a Sunday, at almost midnight, I called him and he immediately could help me. So a big shout out to Dave from Valleys 5. Alright guys, my first run in the MX-5. And I just want to make sure that it runs, and then I will call Dave and see if everything is fine.
Oh, this you crazy mother.